Vacation on June 9th. If you will, stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence afterwards. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now on the agenda, do we have a motion for the approval of the agenda?
I would like to make a motion to approve the agenda, but amend it by adding item E under new business, West Henderson High School flooring.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any discussion? Mr. Garrett, would you like to discuss that just briefly, please?
Yes, that item, we would like to explore adding and updating the flooring at West Henderson High School, similar to what we did at Flat Rock Middle School last year. So we will talk about that when we get to that agenda item, but that's what that relates to now that the other renovations and security project is completed there.
Thank you. Program highlights, Dr. Marcy Wilson. Welcome.
How are y'all doing today? Thank you for having me. I'm very pleased to present to you our AIG plan for the upcoming year with your approval. I'm fortunate enough to have come to this role after Caroline Patterson, who, as you know, was wonderful. And so our AIG program was a very strong one. We were state recognized under her leadership. So I'm excited about the tweaks that we've made to the plan this year and look forward to talking with you about that more. So as you can see, AIG is something that is in Article 9B of General Statute, and it just talks about who AIG students are and how we are required to serve them through differentiated educational services. So in Henderson County, we have 23.4% of our students that are served in our AIG program. Of those, 7.6% are identified as AIG and 15.8% are nurtured. In elementary, those services look like pull-out services in language arts and math with the AIG specialists. We also do cluster groups in the core classroom and push-in services by the AIG specialists into the regular education classroom. In middle school, we offer honors, ELA, and math courses, English 1, Math 1, Spanish 1, and virtual classes through Henderson County Virtual Public Schools and North Carolina Virtual Public Schools. And in high school, we have honors courses, AP courses, courses to earn college credit, and again, those virtual classes with the addition of North Carolina School of Science and Math. So a new plan is developed every 3 years and is approved by the Henderson County Board of Public Education. The AIG department monitors implementation of the plan along with our school administrators and our instructional services team led by Dr. Marlowe. Our budget is mostly for salaries of our AIG specialists, supplies and materials, and other costs associated with the AIG services. And we are funded from the legislature as well as the Henderson County Commissioners. North Carolina, as part of legislation, provides $1,500 per identified AIG student for up to 4% of our population. So if you remember, our identified students were higher than that, as well as our served students. So up to 4%, we get $1,500 per student. Again, 23.4% of our students are served in some way through our AIG program, with 7.6 being identified. Our specialists for next year, we have 14 with advanced degrees or national board certification. In the elementary school, we basically share schools with the exception of Atkinson, which has a half-time position, which is split with a STEM position there. So Maggie DeCora does AIG and STEM, and then our elementary specialists serve at least 2 schools. Our middle schools have an AIG specialist. with the exception of rugby, which has 2, because 41% of our middle school students who are identified and served are at rugby, so that is why they have 2 specialists instead of just 1. And then each of our high schools have an AIG specialist as well. We have a very strong AIG team. Some of our most wonderful teachers serve as our AIG specialists. We're very blessed with the team that we have. So our vision moving forward is to nurture the potential of all high-ability students through engaging, differentiated instruction that promotes academic, intellectual, and emotional growth. We prepare students for future success by fostering creativity, critical thinking, a persistent curiosity, and pursuit of knowledge. We have 6 standards which we are required to include in our plan, which you can see listed there: identification, comprehensive programming, differentiated curriculum and instruction, personnel and professional development, partnerships, and program accountability. And so this is our timeline for how we decided to revise our plan. We spent a lot of time in the fall reviewing our plan, and then we focused on gathering data from our stakeholders. We did this through several different ways. We did an electronic survey of all staff members, and then we sent a survey to all of our AIG identified parents, and then they could give approval for their students to take a survey as well. So we identified our AIG identified students and parents and all staff members. We also had an AIG advisory group who made up of students, parents, community members, administrators, teachers, so a broad range of people in that group. We spent most of the spring reviewing, writing, looking at our data that was collected, and revising our plan because of the feedback that we received, and then we are bringing it to you today for a request for approval. So in our stakeholder feedback from our survey, in our meetings with administrators, our meetings with our advisory group, there were 4 big areas that we needed to focus on in our new plan: communication, curriculum enhancement, professional development, and AIG identification. Throughout all of the feedback that we received, these are the ones that bubble to the surface of changes that we needed to make in our new plan. So for our first focus area of communication, and you will see as I talk about these focus areas that a lot of our strategies for focus areas interlap. So main themes from our stakeholder feedback for communication was we need to improve our communication with all of our stakeholders. We need to hold parent information sessions with regular communication, and we need to provide some ideas for parental support at home. So in focusing on communication, we also hit the area of professional development. So the first thing we're going to do is have beginning of the year presentations in all grade spans by our AIG specialist at their beginning of the year faculty meetings, one of the ones within the first months of school. We also are going to hold professional development sessions, which are held by our AIG specialist. We're going to provide some beginning teacher support. We're going to look at how to differentiate appropriately in the classroom. What are the characteristics of gifted learners, and other topics based on staff needs and data that comes through the year. And attendance and planning sessions with staff as appropriate to focus on how to extend the curriculum. Another area that we are going to focus on is communication with our parents and students. We are developing a Google Classroom for students and inviting our parents to join that as well. And in that Google Classroom, or our Learning Management System classroom, we're going to provide extension activities for home, extracurricular activities, contests, information about Governor School, North Carolina School of Science and Math. What does the advanced placement course offerings look like at the high school level? What honors courses are available? In addition to the classroom that parents and students can join, we're going to have some parent meetings, which include yearly reviews of the differentiated education plan or the individualized differentiation education plan. We're going to look at scheduling and registration in secondary and student-specific needs. So again, we're going to look at students as well, and that is where we're going to really look at a wraparound service for our students, which includes, in the high school, our AIG specialists serve a different role mainly than they do in the elementary, and that means they have to wrap their support in the middle and the high schools based on what the other staff members are doing, what our counseling department is doing, what our CTE department is doing with our new career development plans. So it's really an advocate for the student, and it's also, let me give you some information, let me meet with you to talk how I can help you figure out what it is you need to do to meet your future goals. Focus areas 2 and 3, we had some themes of stakeholder feedback, which includes they need more individualized support, they need to be challenged in the regular education classes, they would like equitable AP courses and honors course offerings, honors level options for all courses, we want some more critical thinking and rigor, hands-on activities. We want to look at some art courses. Are there availability for honors art courses? What kind of extracurricular opportunities can we provide for them? Some social emotional needs and more time with the AIG teacher. More time with the AIG teacher was really prevalent in our elementary schools. They would love to have their own AIG teacher at each school. That was over and over and over in our feedback. So what we're doing to support those areas, curriculum enhancement and professional development, is again, we are going to provide a Google Classroom for our teachers of our gifted learners, which will provide information about meeting the needs of the gifted learners, what they look like, because not all gifted learners, just like all of our students, are not the same. Here are some ideas for differentiation, extension, and enrichment. Again, as I mentioned earlier, the beginning of the year presentation for AIG specialists are part of that plan as well. We're also looking at clustering gifted learners in K-8 classrooms, 4 to 5 students. We're not talking about tracking. We're talking about let's look at our students that we can cluster together to allow that teacher some ease and differentiation in meeting their needs. Develop honors level curriculum guides for all honors courses, including CTE, World Language, and the Arts. Review our current honors courses for alignment to the honors level course standards that DPI has just revised. We want to focus on rigor and critical thinking skills, and increase our advanced course offerings across our district, honors, AP, career and college promise. Another focus area is that Google Classroom, which we already talked about, with a focus of making sure our parents and our students get the information they need to make the best choices for their student and their student's pathway. Service delivery options are going to change just a little bit in that our pull-out groups to extend the core will continue, cluster groups, which I already mentioned, and differentiated activities and assignments, increasing that cluster group focus into the middle school areas with differentiated activities and assignments, and then again, extend those honors course offerings in the high school. For our focus area 4, AIG identification, the major themes were, they asked questions such as, how does our criteria, our identification criteria compare to other districts in our region? How do we recognize giftedness in other areas than reading and math? So we really took a look at our regional AIG plans for the districts in our region and looked to see where we fell with our identification criteria. We looked at how we could recognize giftedness in art and CTE and language acquisition so that we could really look at the students who exhibit giftedness and meet their needs appropriately. So for AIG identification, the way our new plan addresses that stakeholder feedback is we have moved from a 96th percentile in aptitude and achievement to a 94th percentile. This was made after much debate, after looking at a lot of data, and looking at plans across the region. And what we found was that our students who were already being served as nurtured students in that 94th to 95th percentile range did not look a lot different than our kids that were identified from the 96th percentile and above. What we also found was that a lot of our EOG scores, when they came out with a percentile, there wasn't a 96th percentile score given. It was either 97 or 95 or 94. So we were missing some kids just based on the data that we were provided. So we felt that it was not increasing the number of students we serve, but rather recognizing the giftedness that they exhibit. The additional aptitude test options, interestingly enough, a lot of our aptitude tests were paper pencil, and some of them included references to things like a record player or other items that our students would not know what they were. So we investigated some online assessments that are relevant for today's students, and we mainly go with the COGAT, which is given online to our second graders as a universal screener, and then we also do COGAT off grade level for those students who exhibit giftedness in areas as well as the Naglieri. And we're looking at expanded portfolio pathways so that we can look at students that are showing giftedness in arts, world languages, CTE, language acquisition, so that we're not narrowing our focus, but rather focusing our students on our individual needs of our students. So as a summary, our new plan focuses on updated pathways to identification. We focus on increased communication with our stakeholders and enhancing our curriculum and professional development. You guys have any questions?
Before I take questions, we are joined by Dr. Revis. She's out of town, but she's online with us. Dr. Revis, can you hear us? Dr. Revis, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you, Mr. Bridges.
Do you have any questions, Ms. Revis, for Dr. Wilson?
No, I really do appreciate the updates, and I really appreciate you bringing in a wide variety of stakeholders and collecting data and looking at that data.
Thank you.
Ms. Wilson, I want to thank you for sending me the contract for the last contract. I noticed that we're at a shortfall of $13,000 from that contract versus this coming contract. Does that hurt us at all in our program?
Well, any shortfall, of course, hurts our program.
$13,000 is quite a bit, especially when we spend 95.5, I think it is 95.5% on personnel, and the rest goes to what?
We buy novel sets for teachers. We also provide funding for our AIG specialists who are hired to get licensure. We also provide some professional development for our teachers who are working with gifted learners. But mainly, most of that, the other percentages, goes to supplies for our classroom teachers.
Okay, and the curriculum is going to be changed, enhanced this year?
Not a change in curriculum, but mainly an enhancement by differentiation. Let's extend our curriculum for those learners that can go farther at a rate that they can go. Instead of looking at what our students are doing and just saying, oh, yep, you've aced it, you've made a 100. Well, how can we get you to think deeper about this? How can we increase the rigor for that student so that student can learn as fast and as much as that student can learn? If they have areas that they're passionate about and they want to learn more about, let's incorporate that in and do a problem-based learning project for that student rather than something that they've already know. So really focusing in on our students' needs and differentiating appropriately.
Okay, and I noticed that summer school, you had summer school under the last contract. Do we still have summer school for AIG students?
AIG students are not part of the students that we offer summer school anymore, basically because as part of that last plan, we partnered with the Education Foundation to do some STEM-related summer school opportunities, and I believe that funding has been redirected to other opportunities, which Dr. Marlowe can speak about.
She is correct, yes.
And the partners that you mentioned, who are they, the partners? You had mentioned partners.
Community partners.
Community partners.
One community partner that also served as a parent and a community partner was Graham Fields. He joined us at every advisory group meeting as part of our feedback towards our stakeholders. We also partner with our businesses through our CTE department to look at what internships are our gifted learners really interested in and how can we serve them in that role as well.
That's great. Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I had a question. When you say identified versus the ones that are nurtured, can you explain that a little better for me?
We have 5 different pathways for identification, which are included in our plan, which really focuses on, are they at the 94th percentile in an aptitude test? Okay. Are they at a 94th percentile in an EOG type test or another achievement test? Do they exhibit giftedness in another area, which would then be a portfolio pathway? So through that areas, we're looking at our students who qualify through one of those ways to be gifted. The nurtured students are students that exhibit giftedness in different areas, but maybe don't meet that 94th percentile, because we want to expand our services to raise our students rather than exclude students who show areas.
So we're not just hitting those ones that hit the top on there.
We are not.
Okay. The other one that you said, a big one that they had talked about was adding more for our elementary schools and being able to have a teacher at each school. How long would that take to make that a possibility?
It is not a possibility based on current funding at this point.
Okay. And the last part was, how different is this? Because didn't know what the old plan was. How different is your new plan from what we were doing previously?
As I said, our old plan was very solid. Ms. Patterson did a wonderful job with that plan and getting us to where we are. So what we're doing now is expanding what we're doing and pushing it through 12th grade. We had a very strong elementary program, but in middle and high, we really were focused more on honors courses. And so we want to make sure we're not losing kids, those kids that maybe are looking at a career track that they're very interested in and they're gifted in, and how can we help them meet that track? So it's more of wrapping services around that student and elevating them to where they can meet their goals, rather than just, let's look at our honors course kids, if that makes sense. We're also looking at communication with our stakeholders, with our parents, with our students, making sure that everyone knows about the opportunities that we have available for them. We have so many opportunities in our district for our students, and a lot of times we found that our parents didn't know about those.
Well, see, I have a second grader, and I didn't even know that she took a COGAT test until it happened, and then she didn't, I didn't know what it was for at the time, so that would be helpful.
Yes, so that is our goal, is to increase that communication.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so one more question. I'd noticed on the previous contract that you use youth mental health first aid. I've not seen it in the new contract. Is it in there? And Castle. Those are surveys. I think.
The Youth Mental Health First Aid was a training that is provided with a partnership through our health department for interested staff. It is not required. Staff can choose to attend that training. And the Castle, we use their 3 practices, which is just making a welcoming atmosphere into our class, greeting students as they arrive, knowing their names. So it was more about, not any surveys, but more about making students feel welcome in the classroom that they're in.
The Youth Mental Health First Aid, for example, we offered it this spring, and we've done so for the last several years through our Student Services Department. It's typically grant funded, and we're able to train not only our staff, but also we've been able to open it up to community members as well. This is excellent training.
Well, I just want to say, I think the program is wonderful, and I'm just impressed. Thank you.
It is because of the wonderful AIG specialists we have in our district. They're phenomenal. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Student and staff recognition, excuse me, I have an ear infection and my voice is not perfect, so it may come out pretty poor. Student and staff recognition, Mr. Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Bridges, members of the board. This is always a highlight of every meeting, is being able to recognize those great people who we work for and who work among us. First, we want to honor our 2025 Student Leadership Summit. East Henderson High School hosted that this year, so I'm going to invite Katie Rogers up to share a little bit about, Brandon, Mr. Scott as well, to share a little bit about what that was, and then we've got a little certificate for those folks.
Thank you, sir. Well, we are very proud and happy to be with you today. At East Henderson High School, we communicate our vision using a roadmap. The destination of our roadmap is distributive leadership with transformational leaders. We always want to be growing as a leader ourselves, transforming ourselves, investing into the leaders in our circle, transforming others, and then creating leadership capacity, opportunities. And the full implementation, where we want to be in 5-10 years, is we want student leaders leading our school. And Ms. Rogers and these students are great examples of that. And if you don't know Ms. Rogers, she has led our service learning students for a couple years now, more than a couple. She is amazing. The work she has done investing into kids who are very, very high functioning, and then students who don't think they have a whole lot to offer, has just been incredible to witness. So I'm going to let her talk a little bit about that. So thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for allowing my students to be honored. I just want to give you a picture of where the Leadership Summit was sort of birthed from. Mr. Garrett has done a fantastic job with our county SGA team, really emphasizing collaboration over competition. it's natural in a county with 5 high schools to get pretty competitive, but he's done a great job of switching gears and really focusing on collaboration. And these 2 ladies behind me, as well as the rest of her team, their team, Landon Taylor, Karina Conco, and Isis Beck-Williams, just completely took the lead on this. We had over 100 student leaders from Western North Carolina come and be a part of this kind of conference-style leadership summit. Students planned it from top to bottom, and we're also very grateful for Henderson County Education Foundation and the Hendersonville Rotary for helping with funding, as well as 828 Take and Bake and some private sponsors. We couldn't have done it without them, but it created so much excitement that our district teacher of the year, Marley Moreno Hollifield, volunteered for IHS to take on next year's summit, and that was really what we wanted to do, to sort of ignite a spark and let that keep getting passed around so everybody could experience that type of leadership. So I'm very proud of my students, and I'm very thankful to Mr. Scott, Mr. Garrett, for allowing me space to lead in a way that I feel is really, really important for the future. So thank you.
So we have certificates and we have challenge coins for those students. I know you have some who aren't in attendance, but right here we have Heather Wetzel. Raise your hand again. And we have Nikki. Step over there and we'll have Ms. Clayton take your picture. Not in attendance, we want to recognize also Isis, Karina, and Landon. So certainly we have coins and certificates for them as well. Mr. Scott, I'll hand those off. One of the things I'd love to comment is it's always awesome to see our students stepping up and taking leadership opportunities and spreading those across our district. And this SGA group that we had this year, as you know from our last meeting with their presentation, was really aggressive with making sure that they were leaving a legacy. And Heather was part of that group as well. So it's exciting to see this organically grow now that our students are hosting one another. So I'm excited to hear that news. I did not know that they were going to pass that along to be that have that hosted somewhere else. So make sure we get that information as well. So this next, since we were last together, we had our had a really great spring games for our Henderson County Special Olympics, and we wanted to take an opportunity to recognize those folks who do not get a lot of recognition, and they don't seek the recognition. But we wanted to have them come up and be recognized by you today so we could all stand up and give them an applause, because having been in 4 different districts in North Carolina and seen Special Olympics all across this state, all of them equally impressive, this is the best Special Olympics games that I have ever seen, and it is due to our great people. It is due to our great organizers who work day by day in the shadows just to make sure that they're serving kids and families and to make it a celebratory day. And that is what it is. The first time I had a chance to come to our spring games, and I heard there was an Olympic village. Let that settle in. We have an Olympic village. I knew I was in for a treat, and I could not really prepare myself for just how outstanding it was. You see some photographs here. Really, Mr. Scott, appreciate him bringing his student body out to cheer on all of these athletes and for hosting this event at East. I know it's a treat and a pleasure to get to be able to do that, and it's a blessing to have somebody that has such a great facility. But, you know, my favorite part is to see that parade and the parade of the athletes as they come in and the smiles on their faces. If you can't smile at that, I think you need to check your heart and see if you can go find one. So really just wanted to invite those folks up who are part of the organizers who do such a great job. Now, if I call your name, I'd love, if you're here, to please come on up. Natalie Stiles. And Natalie's retired, but last taught at Glen C. Marlowe Elementary as an EC intensive intervention teacher. So retired, but comes back and does this each and every year. So thank you, Natalie. Tony McDonald. So Tony works at Clear Creek in the front office and has helped for the last 4 years doing the volunteer side of thing, and other years doing whatever is needed to be done. Rhea McDonald. I blew it. It's Raya. Sorry. Raya is a rising senior at East Henderson, and I think you can figure the connection out there. But we love to see that family legacy continue of that volunteer spirit, and love to see students step up. And really, having Raya here reminds me, having the student friends and buddies and mentors there working with their student athletes is a huge highlight as well. Amy Bentley. Amy teaches at Flat Rock Middle School. Dina Metzger. Dina is a former teacher for us. And Heather Hay. She'll clap for her. So Ms. Hay is a community partner with Abound Health. And I'm not going to let it go without mentioning Becca Martin. So Becca Martin really is the top cheerleader for this and top organizer, and defers all of the credit to her team and to the team that works with her to get this done. But Becca is a fearless advocate for her students and a fearless advocate for this spring games. And she is not here because she is working with Special Olympics Bowling. They started this afternoon, so she was conflicted, and she apologized for not being able to be here, but what a greater representation of somebody who has stepped up and led these games for many, many years. So she deserves a big round of applause as well. But to you ladies, on behalf of the board and a very grateful Henderson County Public Schools, thank you for your selfless efforts, and thank you for putting on bigger and better spring games each and every year. I don't know how you top yourselves, but you do, and I'm just honored to be able to attend and be a part of it. So we're glad we were able to honor you tonight. We get a picture.
May I mention that it poured rain? It was rescheduled. It had been rescheduled for the following Friday, I think, and it literally just monsooned. And I just want to say that that's probably one of the highlights of the event of the year for me, because everyone is all smiles, and it didn't matter that it was raining. The children seemed to love it. I got drenched on the way to my car, and you guys still had a day out in the rain. So thank you for everything that you do. It really is a benefit to us just to be a part of it and just enjoy it. Thank you.
If you haven't attended a Special Olympics, take a crying towel with you. It's very touching, and I loved it.
And as soon as the date comes out, circle it and underline it twice, because it is certainly worthwhile and worth your time to go by. We have a lot of folks, community partners who volunteer, run concession stands, set up all of those things. But we want to thank these very special ladies who are responsible for making the ship go, and we're certainly glad. A couple other quick things I wanted to mention. We wanted to celebrate our class of 2025. We had great commencement exercises a couple of Fridays ago. Speaking of rain, we dodged it for the most part. We had a lot of wind. We caught some diploma covers on the stage when we were sitting there, but they went off without a hitch. I will say that it's the first time since I was at 4,000 feet elevation that I had a graduation in the 60s. And actually, when I got in my car at East, it was 59 degrees, so it reminded me of being back up in Avery County a little bit. But certainly appreciate the leadership team and spreading around to make sure that we had representation at each one of these commencement exercises. And we know the class of 2025 is going to do great, great things. So I want to remind folks that our summer meals started today with our Meals on the Bus. We have 2 routes that are going, and they will run from today, all 5 weekdays, up into July 25th. And you see the locations there at East Flat Rock Park and Jackson Park. That's route number 1, 11 to 11:45 and 12 to 12:45. And then on Dana Community Park from 11 to 11:45 is the first stop on Route 2. And Edneyville Community Center is the second stop from 12 to 12:45. So thank you for the opportunity to share and to celebrate these great folks tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett. Now we come to board members' observations, and we've had a few already. Any others?
I just wanted to say, kind of to echo a couple of the things that have already kind of been highlighted, seeing our high schools come together, and they have throughout the year on many different things. Used to high schools, it was this rivalry, and with sports, it still is, but where these kids are at now, it's camaraderie, and it's cheering each other's schools on, and getting to see that play out throughout the year with different things that have been going on has been really, really amazing to see these kids, still have pride in their schools, but be able to support each other with smiles and enthusiasm has been great. But the Special Olympics this is the first year that I've ever been. And even though we got through the whole first part of the ceremony and then it poured, but it was just an amazing thing to be a part of. And to see so many students across Henderson County, from younger siblings, there were middle school siblings, there were high schoolers, some of these kids, their families don't come. There's a lot of these kids that their families didn't come for whatever reason, and for some it's their schools are their support system. And seeing the amount of kids in Henderson County that just wrap their arms around these students on a daily basis is a testament to who they are, to their teachers, to our schools, to our leadership. And it's nurtured something in, my daughter's going off to college this fall for special education, and it just nurtured something in her this year that she just had a passion for. And these teachers are incredible, and you should all be proud of them and these students. But our graduates, it was, we got a little wet at West, and it was cold. But my grandma had her heated jacket on. It was to see the amount of recognition that these students had. These kids are amazing. And our community partners, just the scholarships that were awarded to these students, just well done, class of 2025. They're going to be hard to beat.
First of all, let me say that we are very fortunate to have the public that we have in this county. And we love having you and your comments at each board meeting. First of all, let me call on Joyce Marciarelli. I may have pronounced that wrong, Joyce. Stellar. Marsteller. Got it.
Very well. That's fine. Well, I am so impressed with this year has been just fantastic. And I praise God. Yes, there are places we can increase, everything can get better. But boy, we are so pleased with, we are so pleased that we are able to have a school that doesn't turn on the parents. I love the fact that you are including parents more and more and encouraging them to become part of their education of their children. And so many places around our county and state and whatever are trying to keep the parents out because they don't want them to know what they're doing. And I love that AIG, critical thinking. Where's our? Critical thinking. Oh, I love critical thinking. Doesn't mean you get all negative or anything. It means that you just think about what you're saying yes to. What are you really speaking into our children's hearts? It sounds like really good stuff, and I really appreciate you. And I appreciate all the work at this. I was a special ed teacher, so I know, having been a teacher in special education in Michigan, it's different than here, but it doesn't make things really different. The basis is there. And I have so much gratitude to the people that do Special Olympics. I'm gonna, if they're still here, I want to get a hold of them and know how to do what do they call it, volunteer. I give them money, but money isn't as important as a hug. And some of these kids really need that hug. And I ask that you would, through the summer, think about how we can take good, which is what we've done, and make it best for our children, through our parents, through the teachers, our wonderful teachers, our principals, and even our superintendent. So we thank you. I love those shoes. I thank you and praise you, Father God, for bringing these beautiful people here. We're not going to meet in July, right? Do we meet in August? We do. That's good. I would have missed you even more. But the bad part of it is you're going to miss my birthday, but that's all right. It's all right. We'll go on in spite of it. And we praise God for the fact that I'll be another year, and maybe even 2, who knows, later on. But I thank you and praise you for what you are doing, what you have done, and what you're going to do. And I pray that you will read Matthew 18, 1 through it's really good. Read Matthew 18. It's really good about kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Next, we have Tracy Gates, Mark Shepard. In regard to Stop the Bleed program.
Do we get 3 minutes each, or do we have to split 3 minutes? 3 minutes, okay. Hey, I'm Tracy Gates. I'm from the trauma program at Mission, an outreach and injury prevention coordinator, and I teach a whole lot of Stop the Bleed. I was invited by your West Henderson junior class to come and see what they'd been up to with their Stop the Bleed efforts. Was completely blown away, and I'll admit it, I cried all the way home because they really touched me in their earnestness for safety in their schools. And so they asked for me to come back the next day and teach them Stop the Bleed, and my schedule allowed for that, and I brought along my friend Jay. Usually I bring Marky Mark. I'm the funky bunch. Wherever we go, and this particular day it was Jay and I, and they were the most engaged, the most fun I've ever had at Stop the Bleed. They were oozing happiness, and I just really enjoyed it. So I'm here to tell you what we can offer if you support Stop the Bleed in your schools, that we can come and train your teachers, front office staff, bus drivers, whomever you would like. We will do that for free at no charge. We will do it at your schedule, not really our schedule. You tell us when to come, and we will show up, and we will always show up. We also have 70 kits set aside that look very similar to this for you at Henderson County Schools for you to distribute as you see fit. I know the students have asked for some money to purchase some kits, but we had put those aside for you guys about 2 years ago. So they are sitting in my office waiting for you. And so in order to give kits, we have to have training. So we would be very interested in assisting the fire department, EMS, Pardee, Park Ridge, anybody who will come to come and do the training. And we could hit more than one school in a day. We could do it on teachers' work days. We could do it after school. We're very flexible. All right, Mark.
Okay, with 55 seconds, my name's Mark Shepard. I'm the Senior Trauma Physician Assistant at Mission Hospital. If y'all in the future have any questions for me as a subject matter expert in this, I'm actually a graduate in Hendersonville High School and former student body president, but also I have a fellowship from Baylor College of Medicine in pre-hospital medicine. This is one of those things that you have about 30 seconds during a massive hemorrhage to stop it. It has been proven that teenagers, that lay people who have never done first aid that are trained in our course can do this. And with it gives a 6-fold survivability rate. That's more than anything else I do in medicine. So for the patient to get to me and my team, they have to have that proper first aid. We've taught it a lot. We can teach it for you. Thank you.
Can I ask a question? What's the length of time for the training?
It's a 20-minute video and then 20 minutes hands-on training.
Okay.
And that's a reasonable group of 30 to 40. When you get into 60 teachers, it takes a little longer. Mm-hmm. Thank you. And we just taught 10,000. We hit 10,000 people, community members that have been trained in Stop the Bleed. So we'd love to add Henderson County Schools to that list. Yes.
So Ms. Gates, would you leave your contact information with Ms. Clayton right there? This is something that I was able to do in partnership in a previous district.
Yeah,
And we've had
it was
trainings.
me.
Yes, ma'am, it was. And we've had trainings scheduled here, so we want to get those back on, but glad to know that Mission is glad to be a partner with that.
Of course.
So
Thank
if
you.
you'd leave that, that'd be great. Thank you.
I have a question. Is it a yearly training or is it like
Yeah,
a once?
It's a one and
Yeah.
done. They just put out their 3.0 training with the American College of Surgeons with the Stop the Bleed programs. So it's just the newest information. The video is interactive and it doesn't have any live action like it's had in the past that kind of make people queasy. It's all cartoonish, which seems to go over better with people that are in the community, not in the hospital.
And the training has a lot to do with empowerment, and that's really in emergencies and what we do, understanding that lay people can be empowered for this, students can be empowered for this, and empowerment brings comfort to fears. I have something to do. I'm able to do something in this situation that could be horribly bad, and I can make a difference. That's empowerment.
You can't wait to see what your juniors are going to be in that classroom. They are trailblazers.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our last comment, Ms. Betsy Leash, in regard to the food program, lunch program.
Members of the school board, thank you for your service. Thank you also for your concern that students in the Henderson County schools do not go hungry. The number one cause of inability to learn is hunger. I know you are considering adjustments to the child nutrition program today, so I ask you to be mindful of the proposed legislation on the federal level that could have significant impact. The United States Congress is considering reductions to SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. What effect would these reductions have upon the nutrition program here in Henderson County? While there is not a direct effect, the indirect effects could be significant. Consider that children whose families receive SNAP benefits are automatically enrolled in the National School Lunch Program. Their parents do not have to complete additional paperwork to qualify. If the reductions to SNAP occur, and some of the children in our county schools no longer qualify, then their parents will need to apply for them to receive free or reduced price meals. How many of these parents will actually complete the application? 100%? That's highly unlikely. If we were just talking about a few students who need free meals, but whose parents did not apply, that would be easy to work around. But if an entire school were knocked out of the participation in CEP reduction, CEP stands for Community Eligibility Provisions, a federal program that allows high poverty schools to offer free breakfast and lunch to all students. And if they are determined by such federal programs as SNAP. If fewer Henderson County schools were eligible for CEP, how would that affect the Child Nutrition Services budget? I don't know, and I'm not sure you know either, but that's the point. You'll not be able to charge 25 cents more for lunch and assume you now have a workable budget for child nutrition, and that no child will be hungry at school. You need to keep your eyes open and observe for what happens if SNAP benefits are cut. Again, thank you for your attention to the nutritional needs of our children.
Thank you, Ms. Leach. Now we're down to consent agenda. Do I have a motion that we approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ms. Rivas? No, okay. Motion passes. She's out here. All right, old business. Excuse me. Okay, old business, Mr. Scott Rhodes.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. That was awkward silence.
Yeah.
So I apologize. He's pulling up the presentation that I shared with you over the weekend. Right now, what he's pulling up, I'm just going to go over with you a little bit of the highlights from our last board meeting to address the child nutrition and also the child care program. So as he pulls that up in just a second, we'll be ready.
No, I need to see the carburetor. Feels like this.
Thank you, Mr. McMurray, Mr. Grant. So just a reminder for those who are in attendance and also looking online, just a quick reminder of what we talked about last month. As we begin to look at this again, these are the child nutrition current meal prices at $3.50 for our elementary, $3.75 for our secondary. We talked about our per plate cost for our breakfast. For those who are getting free breakfast, as you look at that reimbursement rate, this was the only place where we were actually making a little bit of money on our reimbursement as far as revenue. We looked at the paid breakfast. We're only getting a 39-cent reimbursement rate, so therefore we were losing $2.13 in our revenue. And as we go through the free lunch per plate cost, $5.04 with the reimbursement of $4.54, where we were losing 50 cents per meal on the free lunches. The paid lunch, looking at that reimbursement rate of 53 cents with the student cost of $3.50 in our elementaries, we're actually losing $1.01. And then when we look at the secondary, there's a 25-cent increase in student cost. Therefore, we're only losing 76 cents for our secondary. So I'm going to go through all of this information, some of this other stuff that we're going to talk about, and then I'll answer any questions you have here at the end. So we started looking at our monthly supplemental and adult sales. That was one thing that was a change that I mentioned to you and what I shared with you over the weekend is $40,184. That is the total revenue that we are receiving each month on average. When we start looking at that, we are actually losing about $54,000 a month for a total anticipated loss of $546,000 in our child nutrition program for this school year. We talked about the why, the increased labor costs, absolutely the inflation of our food prices, and those federal reimbursement rates have not kept up with labor cost or food prices. So we also talked about last month, what would it look like if you as a board decided to increase lunch prices? What would 25 cents, what would that look like? That would be somewhere in the neighborhood of increased revenue of $62,000, which would be an impact on students and families of $45 a year. If you chose to consider a 50-cent increase in lunch prices, that would, again, double that revenue. So we're looking at approximately $125,000 of increased revenue for the child nutrition program. And that would be a $90 increase for all individual students and their families. Talked about what our fund balance looks like. Projection right now, as we get ready to close up the year, Mr. Socia and his team have looked at this. We are anticipating a fund balance of approximately $1.3 million, which is going to leave us with just a little bit over 2 months of operating cost. Why is that important? Well, right now, we are able to charge an indirect cost back to the child nutrition program of $200,000. Starting next year, we will not be able to charge that indirect cost because we will not have over the 2 months of operating expenses for our child nutrition program. So we're not going to have enough of that money in that fund balance to be able to charge the indirect cost. So that puts us, again, at a projected cost or a loss, if we were looking at this for 25-26, at $346,000. Now, I want to be real clear. I said this until you, the little video was sent to you, is that these are based off of this year's numbers. This does not take into account of anything as it relates to potential increase in our wages for our employees that's going to come from the state. And then to be able to anticipate what those food costs are going to be, that's anyone's guess. All we know right now is they continue to go up. So knowing that $346,000 projected loss based off the fact that we would not be charging the indirect cost, that's why we have a ballpark figure of $346,000. We put together a few potential options for you to consider. Obviously, you can look at either of these two options or pick one of your own, right? Choose your own adventure. This is the part of this that you get to do as a board member. What we put together as one of the options is option number one is that you could continue universal breakfast in grades K through 5. Right now, we are doing universal breakfast for grades K-12, but if you wanted to continue that in K-5, you could offer second chance breakfast for 6-12. Again, second chance breakfast for 6-12 means after they get to school, after first period, we would have stations set up. We've done this before. Students would be able to go in between classes, go up to their station, get food, punch in their number, and be able to eat. And that you would also have an option to be able to raise lunch prices by either 25 cents or 50. You could also discontinue universal breakfast in grades K-12, except for the CEP schools. You could continue to offer second chance breakfast in 6-12 and raise lunch prices again by 25 or 50 cents. So when we start looking at what some of those are, what does that look like as far as option one? Well, option one, if you do away with the universal breakfast in just 6-12, that is going to save us approximately almost $96,000. When you look at the 25-cent increase of revenue of $62,000, and then you add in the fact that we are predicting that we're going to have an increase in CEP revenue, and let me explain to you what that means. Right now, our free and reduced numbers have increased, and therefore that ISP number is going to go up, which means we're going to get a larger reimbursement rate back from the federal government. Mr. Rolfe and his team right now are predicting that that's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $125,000 of extra revenue, When you add those three lines together, that total revenue increase would be $283,000.
Are you taking into account people that would pay for breakfast after that? Or is that just, that 95,000 in savings is just what you would save in the food cost or food costs and labor of not serving those meals?
Yeah, so the way that we came up with the $95,000 was looking at that monthly snapshot where we were able to capture what students in those in K-5, like what is each individual school and what's the loss, right? And so those 612. So when we looked at 612, what is 612 losing per month? It's $9,586 a month. So being able to look at it, that's how we came up with that number. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. It's just, it's an inexact science. And
No, there's nothing about this that will be exact. I can assure you of that.
Don't know what it, if we were to just cancel the universal breakfast based off of the ones that would pay, we don't know what that number would be.
We have no idea what that participation would do. It will impact your participation. Your
Yeah.
participation will go down. It's just a matter of how much it will go down. It will go down significantly if you don't do a second chance breakfast. Second chance at your secondary level gives those kids an opportunity because a lot of them are rushing into school and going right to class.
So with the second chance breakfast, what does that cost? Or is that what we're saying there won't be a cost?
No, it would be just like a breakfast charge, so they would pay
Okay.
unless they qualified for free and reduced or unless they were in a
Giving them
CEP
the
school.
option to do that. but they
Purchase.
would
It's
pay
a
for it.
second chance to purchase breakfast.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, and I'll get into a little bit more as we get finished through here, kind of put a little synopsis on there for you that I think will help. If you look at discontinue universal breakfast 612 and you want to raise the lunch price by 50 cents, well, that's going to increase the revenue by $125,000, so you'll see that go up to $346,000. That would be the projected revenue increase. Then you got option number two. You could look at option number two. You could decide to discontinue universal breakfast K-12. So what does that mean? Well, it means if you are a CEP school, you continue to eat breakfast for free and lunch for that matter. But as you also have to look at that and say, okay, if we're doing away with K-12 universal breakfast, then that creates a pay-as-you-go model. Or if you qualify for free, then you eat for free. If not, you have to pay. And if you pay, then our child nutrition department, they are able to look at what sales are going on, what the participation rate are each month, and be able to order accordingly. So with that, if you look at this, you take the savings, because now you're looking at a K-12 savings of $258,000. You're looking at an increase of $62,000, an increase in CEP of $125,000. Now you have a projected revenue of $446,000. Same thing here. If you were to raise it by 50 cents, the overall total revenue that you would project would be $508,000, somewhere around $509,000. Now, I'll say this again. Are these exact numbers? No, because you're not ever going to have exact numbers. It's not an exact science. But what I can say is we're in the ballpark. I am 100% confident of that. I am 100% confident that we are in the ballpark with these numbers. Because what we've done is we have looked at a snapshot of what a 1 month is for our school system, looking at exactly what the meal prices are as it relates to our overall cost, what is that per plate cost, and what are the participation rates. Looking at that, that has given us an idea of what we're looking at currently based off of the 8 CEP schools and the ones who don't qualify. But it's not exact.
Is
Questions?
that 346 that you mentioned, that's what we're in the red total, or?
So that's what we are projecting is that we look at, if we looked at not charging the indirect cost back to the child nutrition department, which is $200,000, right? That's $200,000 they pay back to the school system. Then we're looking at a projected loss of $346 next year. And again, I want to say this, that doesn't take into account any increase in labor cost or food cost.
That's if they.
That number's
stay
going
the
to be
same.
possibly would be higher, absolutely.
What's the idea behind the indirect food costs previously? Why are we charging it?
I'm going to defer to Mr. Socia.
districts that have the ability to pay indirect costs have done so. There's probably about half that do, half that don't, because most of them can't afford it anymore. We charge roughly 50% of the allowable indirect cost, the $200,000 mark. I don't know where that number was here when I started. It's been 200,000.
I'm just saying why. What's the why behind it?
What that does is that allows your federal programs to help pay for some of the equipment that they do, their utilities, the use of the facility, the wear and tear, the maintenance.
And that's what I
So
thought a facility fee is.
Yeah, it's a facility fee and a usage fee, because you don't get federal funds for your custodians, you don't get federal funds for your maintenance staff to maintain or fix equipment. So that is the indirect. So anytime you're dealing with federal funds, you have the ability to charge some indirect costs, whether that's through a grant or whether through this process.
But it's almost like you're self-cannibalizing your own industry.
It's a little left pocket, right pocket is what it turns out to be, but it also gives you the flexibility, because you cannot use those federal funds to do the flexible things that we're able to come in and purchase some of that equipment or to really provide the maintenance.
Because normally you would have to use that with local funds to purchase a new fryer or a new whatever.
Well, it's easier. I think you have the ability, but it's a much easier, flexible way to operate.
Yeah, it's the flexibility, and for a long time, we were in a spend-down plan in the child nutrition program where we had, and not want to say in excess, but we had a significant amount of fund balance available, and while it allowed us to not have to raise meal prices, Robert did have to have a spend-down plan to tell them how they're going to spend down those dollars, because they don't want us keeping a lot of federal dollars on hand.
I think this is another thought for another day, but I think there needs to be better guidelines around how those indirect costs are charged, when and why. Well, the why is whatever, but the when that you're charging them, because if we're losing money, and we've been losing money for past couple of years, and we're charging them a couple $100,000 each time, it seems a little, you're going to get to where we are more quickly. All right, but for this conversation, it really doesn't matter.
But that was part of the spend down plan as well, so that you don't get in trouble on the federal side. But now you're at that precipice.
Right. Okay.
Do we know what it looks like if we were to, because in every option that we were given an increase in each of those options. We were not given an option without an increase. And that's what I want to know what it would look like. If we discontinue the universal breakfast and go just for the CEP schools and the families that qualify with the 5%, well, that is the 5%, right? The
You just
5%.
subtract that 62,000.
Okay,
out of
so-
that number.
Oh, well, I didn't take it off of that one.
Or
But,
the 125 number out of the, go to the next slide.
which one was it?
I think it was option 2 slide, is the
If you take
500.
62,609 from the 446.
That's what your number is. But that revenue number is a moving target, because how many people are going to pack their lunches? The savings, is the savings really the savings? Because you're just calculating that number off of the amount of meals that you actually served. So that's a extremely moving target.
But we have to do something one
gotta do
way or
something.
another, and we're not going to really know where we're at until,
There's only one plan that's been, well, how many of these plans actually would, in your estimation, put us in the black? And I'm not talking about making $100,000, I'm talking about making $1 for next year. Do we have that plan?
Can I pop in here, chime in here a minute? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I am all for feeding all kids universal breakfast and lunch if we can afford it. But in my opinion, I think we've gotten in a little trouble by doing that. First of all, we know we had to discontinue universal lunch this past year. I think if we discontinue universal breakfast, the screen that's showing right now, and not do an increase, you could cover that your estimated shortfall for the 346,000. Now, no, excuse me, 380, you can make 383,000 and it would cover your shortfall. You're not going to have a lot of money, a lot of wiggle room, but you'd have about 38,000 so that we wouldn't have to have any kind of price increase. Now, I know that shortfall, that's a hard number to predict, and I understand that. But I would propose that we go back, discontinue our universal breakfast, let us stay flat on our meal prices and see where we are at the end of the year next year. And then if we need to go up, we know we can go up. That would be what I would say.
I'm going to second that. I have a problem with increasing because the numbers that you showed us, this is what it would cost a family for a year, $45 or $90. I can't remember. Is that one child?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what if they have multiple children? So we've got those that qualify for free and reduced lunch. And then you've got those that are on the precipice that do not. And there's a margin of people, and I don't know what that margin is, but then you have those that can pay for not only their children, but for other children as well. So the ones that's going to be hit hard are the ones that are stuck in the middle if we increase. And I personally can't see myself agreeing to that. I just think that's too hard. I will say that there are multiple ways of making this work. I've mentioned it before about a paying it forward plan. Have the community. I know our community has stepped forward and paid lunch meals off for every school in the district for kids that had a tab. So it's not out of the question. I just have I think it's a hard ask to ask those parents that are stuck in the middle, if they have one child, two childs, three children and greater. That is a strain. How do we know that food is going to go up? It's going to go up for us. It's going to go up for them. It's going to go up. I mean, whether it's household or here, it's just a hard ask for me. I just can't do it.
Can you go to the slide that shows our per plate cost? It's probably like slide 4 or 5. If we as a district don't get this under control, you're always chasing your tail. If you are selling something and it costs you more to make it than what you sell it for, any business in this country goes out of business.
100%.
And so in some way, shape, or form, we have to get this back in line. I'm not sure it's ever been in line, but it's you have to sell what you have for what it costs to make it, or else you're having this conversation every single year.
So,
And at some point, you're not going to be able to have this conversation because you have no money to be able to pay for it, period.
so for historical reference, the last time that you increased your lunch prices, your per plate cost was about $3.50. So, or a little bit over $3.50. That was right before the 2022 school year, correct, Bernie? So we were at $3.50 and $1.52, $3.53. So you went to $3.50 and $3.75. So you got ahead of it in 2022. In 3 years, the per plate cost has gone up $1.50.
And we've
And
got
your
to
meals have not changed.
We've got to be able to see that this is going to be that per plate cost is for 24-25. So the legislature is getting ready to come out with new pay increases, which is going to increase the amount of hospitalization, the amount of the pension, the amount of our overhead is our major expense in here, right? And then food costs are going to be food costs. They're not going down, like you said. I mean, it's going to be something. But if we don't, and this is the good one, right? So if you go back to the breakfast, it's even more. We're losing like $1.01 or whatever it is. If we do not get that under control, we are always doing this.
Well,
And it sucks. It's not a good position to be in.
No.
But that's what it costs us to make a plate of food.
I personally, my opinion would be that we do exactly what Kathy had said. we leave it where it is, because I completely disagree with charging families more. Families are being hit and taxed on everything as it is over and over and over again. And we live in a very expensive area as it is. But I think we need to leave the costs. We can do away with the universal. In a perfect world, I think every child in this country should eat breakfast and lunch for free.
Absolutely.
To no cost to anybody. No questions asked. And I think we need to take a hard look at, for next year, figuring out if we're paying $5.04 a plate, we need to start looking at what our better options are for Henderson County for actually feeding our kids, and knowing what is our waste cost. How much food is actually getting thrown in the trash can, because as a parent who spends many, many months throughout the year volunteering for duty-free lunch for our teachers, I can tell you those trash cans are full of food. And I'm with Sheila. I think we need to look at the idea of a pay-it-forward option for parents on their, there's an app. You can go in for Henderson County, you can set how much money your kids all have in their account. Maybe we can look at a pay-it-forward option for that to be distributed out. And I think we need to take this next year and find something else that works for us, that works for our students. We need healthier options. Every single thing these kids get for breakfast is in a package. It's either frozen or it's in another processed package of some kind. And majority of it gets thrown away. So we are I haven't seen any numbers yet of what our waste costs are. I would love to see what that number looks like. But that's my opinion. Leave the cost, take away the universal breakfast across the board, and figure out where we're at next year and spend this next year looking at what we're actually feeding them.
So another frame of reference, we looked at that per plate cost as well. And when we looked at the areas around us, that is right in line with what neighboring districts are paying. Some are in the $4.85, $4.86 range, some are in the $4.95 range, some are well over $5. So that really stuck out to me when we first started looking at this as well, Ms. Campbell, and to the rest of you. And in digging in, that is very much in line with what we see in the region. One of the biggest advocacy things I think that this board could do is talk about that federal reimbursement piece. Because your federal reimbursement back when you raised lunch prices the last time was much closer to what it is based on the expenses that we've incurred. So that accelerated piece. Now, we don't have control over that, but that is one of the things as we look at what's put the district in this situation, it's a combination of those increased prices and those uncontrollables, and on top of the lack of the federal reimbursement that's kept up with it as well on that inflationary piece. But absolutely, we're going to look at finding every cost savings that we can. I will say this, if that is your decision as a board, absolutely we can make that happen. But we're going to be right back here next year talking about a price increase. We would have different information for you, but this is something, and at some point, your federal government is going to come and say, you've got to increase your prices, because if you don't do an increase that keeps up as close with your per plate, then they will come in and advocate that or legislate that you do that. Bernie, when does that trigger?
They'll let us know that probably after the October, is that typically, I think, when that information comes out? And just so that I can throw more information at you, because you haven't gotten enough, right? When we Scott said that's all based on this year's numbers. And as we think about next year, just giving the information so you're not surprised in the fall when the budget comes out. If they do a 2% salary increase, that's going to cost us about $66,000 more on labor costs. So again, just more information out there, just so that I just don't want you to be surprised if we don't do anything, and then in the fall when they say here's labor has gone way up. That's why.
That's just labor, and then you multiply that by 34% for benefits, correct?
Well, that's including the benefits,
That's
like
including
50,000, a little over 50 for the salary and then the benefits.
I think it's a super mistake to not increase this incrementally. We are gonna find ourselves, if it's going up at the rate that it's been going up, so it goes from $5 to $5.50 a plate, that you're going to have to make a $1 adjustment, $1.25 adjustment at some point in time. I don't like it any better than anybody else. I wholeheartedly agree with you. I would wish there was an app on my phone where I could pick the things that my tax dollars pay for, and I guarantee you feeding kids lunch and breakfast would be at the very, very top. But this is a business that Henderson County that's separate from school business, just like childcare, and you have to look at each of these 23 locations as a separate McDonald's. And if McDonald's is selling Happy Meals at $3.50, but they cost $5, well, I guarantee you Chuck's not in business very long. We have got to increase the prices to just even try to keep up with, and we're still going to lose money. We're still going to lose money. We're going to come back here next year, and we are going to lose money at a quarter and discontinuing breakfast. But we have to be responsible, even though it's the hard thing to do. It's got to be incrementally increased to keep up with what we are paying, spending.
I've thought a lot about it, and I definitely think the universal breakfast, for ending it for all levels. I think we're losing way too much money. We already have a lot of schools that get the CEP, and then all the students that, qualify for free and reduced will still get it. I love the second step breakfast at the middle and high school. One of my visits a couple years ago, I saw the little meal cart at one of the middle schools, and I think that's an incredible opportunity. Some, they're coming and going and late, and they're teenagers, and so they're hungry every 5 minutes. So I think no matter what, I love that idea, letting them have that opportunity to, have carts out and buy something. So I think that's a great opportunity for them. I would love to not increase our meals. I would lean towards not wanting to at all. However, I guess my biggest fear is that if we don't, and then we look at it next year, are we going to be that much far behind that we have to go up and more, more than a quarter? So I don't want to put us in that position. I don't want to put our families and parents in that position that when we do increase, that it has to be more substantial. I would love to see us not, especially due to the hurricane and everything that this community in particular has had. I know a lot of families, 25 cents adds up when you have multiple kids, and, I would love to not do it. Like I said, I just want to be good stewards, and I want to be wise, and I don't want to make, I don't take it lightly. I want to make the best decision, not only for our families, but for our budget and our future budget, because we have to also be always thinking ahead. I don't know. I definitely want to get rid of the universal breakfast and have the second step, but the 25 cents, I'm up for discussion on.
I don't want an increase either, but I think we're entitled to do something, whether it be 25 cents or 50 cents. Otherwise, like Blair said, next year it could be double or triple. We may get farther behind. Dr. Rivas?
So let me ask this. If we, Scott, can you back up one slide to show the 25% increase? That would bring the total revenue to 446. Again, our project is that's going to give us, if we do the 25 cents, that's going to give us $100,000 cushion of what our projected costs are. What if we only considered a 10-cent increase?
I think, Dr. Revis, I think the thing that makes me nervous about anything else is the savings number, I think, is very high. I don't think that savings number is going to be as where that's going to be. And I don't also believe that the 25-cent increase is going to bring $62,000 because more people are going to decide to pack their lunch, right? They're not going to pay for it. And so I think when you combine those two things, you have less savings because this does not take into account any type of increase legislatively to salaries, the $66,000 that Bernie mentioned. And then you're going to have people that do not pay for lunch because of the increase. You're going to have less people buying. I think that number is going to shrink drastically. That's what I was trying to allude to earlier. And so that's why I think it's dangerous to only go up. I think, honestly, 25 cents, it doesn't get us to what it cost us to make it. We have to get to that point that, unfortunately, guys, we got to sell the stuff that we sell. We got to sell for what it costs us at some point. Like, I don't know how you don't.
I don't know how we don't change things if we just settle for where we're at and just say, okay, this is what we've got, let's just do it. How do we make a difference and do something different than what we've always been doing? Even if we go up on and increase parents 25 to 50 cents, we're still chasing our tails. We're always going to chase our tails until we do something different about that $5 per plate cost. I find it insane that we're spending $5 per plate for how many students do we have across this district? That there are no other options out there for Henderson County but with what we've always done. We've used the same companies, the same people looking at it, the same. When are we going to make a decision in Henderson County to do something different? Just because all these other districts are doing it around us and we're keeping up with where they are, well, let's do something different. It is Henderson County. Look at everything else we managed to accomplish. Why can't we figure this out this year and make that a priority to make this something different for next year? Because otherwise, if you want to get to where we're at, we're going to have to go up $2. And we cannot do that.
The difference is you get rid of the program. Okay, how much of that per plate cost is overhead? Do we have any idea what percentage that is? People.
Robert, what's your percentage labor? And
Over half is to pay the people, not to actually buy the food.
That's kind of my point.
so 53% labor, about 44% food. So that's very little overhead after you remove
It
those
is.
two
It's
items.
pretty low overhead, considering. I just think it's a mistake that if we don't increase the prices. I agree that there can be some outside of the box type of thinking on ways that we can make our school lunch and breakfast better. But for what we have in front of us today, I think it's a real mistake to not increase the prices. I'm just one person.
I do like the idea of considering a smaller increase of like 10 cents, because it's still an increase. And, would it make a difference? Or enough a difference? I don't know, but,
20-something thousand, Mr. Craven?
Yeah, right around there. $20,000 or so would be,
That's for the year.
yeah.
So as I listen, I'm hearing a consensus about universal breakfast.
Yeah, I think, when you're losing that much money on it.
Okay, so you could handle this in two motions if you wanted to get that part out of the way and then figure out if you wanted to do an increase and what that increase would be. So if somebody wanted to make a motion to move to discontinue universal breakfast for 25-26, we could do that piece, set that aside, and then figure out the next step.
I'll make a motion that we discontinue the universal breakfast, K through 12, for the year 25, 26.
Yes, effective 25-26.
second.
All in favor? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ms. Rivers?
I'm an aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Okay, so now that's that top chunk, regardless of what that savings is, you've got that piece, and that's the large chunk. Now you can have your discussion or take no action. It's up to you now.
I'd like to make the unfortunate motion to increase prices next year for breakfast and lunch by 25 cents for the 25-26 school year.
Would it go up for breakfast and lunch or just lunch?
The 25 cent that we're talking about right now is just for lunch.
Oh, just for lunch?
Yes,
Why?
correct.
I second that motion.
Well, hold on.
So that 25 cent increase only takes into account that 62,609 is for lunch.
We haven't had a
Breakfast
breakfast
cost stays
price.
the same.
258,
Well, then I will amend my motion to increase lunch prices by 25 cents for 25-26.
Second that motion. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No?
Opposed? Aye.
I'm opposed. I would prefer to do a smaller increase of like 10 cents.
Motion fails.
Motion fails 4-2. You can have another motion, or you can move on.
I move that we increase our price for our lunch 10 cents for the 25-26 school year.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye. All right, any discussion? For the increase of 10 cents?
I would like,
Dale?
yeah, I'm still not okay with increasing it without some kind of plan in place, knowing that we're going to look at every option available to us to stop the bleed, basically, on this. And, well, find some way. I want to see every child. I mean, a couple of months ago, we were ready, I was ready to feed every child. We all were, without any cost. And here we are increasing the cost, and it's like, it's just one of those things where you go, okay, something's just not right here. There's something way off that I can't quite put my finger on. And I know you guys are bringing it to the table, and I really appreciate all the work you guys have done. But something's still just not sitting right with me. I just can't put my finger on it. And I think it does come back to the waste, to how much we're throwing out, because do we know how many? It's a moving target. I get that. And you don't want to ever run out of food, which I think has happened at West. You don't want to ever run out of food for the kids, right? But you also don't want to throw a dumpster full away at the same time. So where's that balance? Is it possible to find it?
So real quick, Mr. Rolfe, you please correct me where I'm wrong, because I am not the child nutrition director. But I want to address the waste real quick. I get it. Like, that makes sense, especially if you're walking in and you look in a trash can and you see all this food. But for that plate, for it to qualify, that student walks through that line and has to be given this food. The choice of whether they eat it or not is up to the child, of whether they throw it away. And I think what's really important is that we're playing by the rules, right? And these rules are not created by us. These are rules that are created by the federal government, some of which we like, some of which we don't like, right? But some of these things are completely 100% outside of our control. I hear think out of the box always, because that's what we do, right? We always are looking for ways to be able to do things better. The reality of this, unfortunately, it is the fact that no one wants to ever raise lunch prices on anybody. No one ever wants to charge more to someone. That doesn't feel good, right? And maybe that's the point. Like, it doesn't feel good to do that. But the reality of it is these numbers are as close to a realistic number that we can produce for you. And there's been, I want to tell you, a ton of hours put into getting those numbers as close as possible to help you to be able to make the very best decision you can, which is a difficult decision. But the food waste, that's outside of our control.
So and I might be wrong on my numbers here. If we did away with universal breakfast, which we've already done, going off of your numbers here, without an increase, we'd be looking at what, somewhere around 380?
383.
383. So where does that put us with our original number? What was that, 346?
The 346, if you get a 2% increase, you're looking at being over 400. So, and again, there are a lot of these things that are moving parts, right? You ask yourself the question on the savings. Mr. Craven brings up a good point. That number, it's a hard target to hit. But here's what happens when you get rid of universal breakfast. When you get rid of universal breakfast, that helps. It's going to have to reset, right? Because now it's for better words, it's pay as you go. If someone comes through the breakfast line, we hand them a breakfast. They either pay for it or they're getting free and reduced. At some point, it's going to declare itself because the number of participants, which gives them the ability to be able to project each week and each month how much food to order and how much food to sell, which will tell us again. But the reality of it is those reimbursement rates, they haven't proven that they're going to change. And because of those reimbursement rates, and I'm not going to go back 40 slides, but you're going to see like we're still going to be $1 and 76 off. And now it'll be 91 and 66. So some of these are absolutely the unknowns, right? Because then it doesn't take into, if you have $60,000 of increased cost as it relates to employment, then we've got food costs. So what is the possibility? It's just, it will take time to declare itself. What I would say is I think it's important for us in our positions to bring you something back quarterly at the very beginning in the first quarter, to bring you something back at Christmas time. Because this is going to give you a very clear picture of where we're at.
So this is something that if we do not decide to do an increase at all today, we can go with where we're at, and in our next quarter, we'll find out where we are for the beginning of school, right? For those first couple.
Essentially, as a board, you could choose in the middle of the year to raise prices if you had to. Not that you would want to, or not that we were suggesting you should. Again, we just gave you two options today. Like I said, pick your own adventure tonight. But, I mean, realistically, we're going to be able to bring you data as we go through the year.
Well, and no matter what we do, we're still gonna be in the red no matter where we're at. Unless we were to go up, and match our.
That
play
much,
costs.
we are very confident I'm correct.
Okay.
We will still be in the red. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I think I'm going to say one thing and I'm jump off of it. Till the federal government steps up and pays for every kid to have free food and breakfast, or the legislature of North Carolina steps up and supplements what the federal government's not reimbursing, or until this board decides to put a line item into our budget for the local current expense to pick up the tab on whatever that may cost, we are always going to find ourselves dealing with this issue. It's just a matter of it's just part of the beast. And it's not fun because we do this almost every year. This is my 9th year doing this. And the only time we haven't had to do this and it worked great and we fed every kid and every parent was thrilled with it was during COVID.
So for me personally, I would say, because we do have some unclear, just based off of not knowing where things are actually going to wind up, I would say I would like to see us leave the cost where it is, based off of these numbers, and revisit this, find out what's going to happen by Christmas, because I can't in good conscience, when we're already proving that we can't keep up with what it's costing us anyway, no matter what we do, we'd have to meet that number to just break even on everything. And we can't do that to families. So I don't think we need to, because even 10 cents isn't going to make a very big difference in this number. So
There's a motion and a second on the floor, right?
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest you ask for a show of hands to help the board secretary with the vote.
Repeat the motion again. Can we repeat the motion?
I believe the motion was to raise lunch prices for 25-26 by 10 cents.
Dr. Revis made the motion.
Revis.
And I seconded it.
Okay. All in favor, show your hands. Say yes.
Yes.
3 yeses. Okay. Opposed?
Motion fails, tie vote 3-3.
Paralysis by analysis.
Where's Amy?
She's in the,
I do appreciate it. I think, Blair's right. We're gonna be discussing this forever. I mean, as long as we're all whoever's in these seats is gonna be discussing it, and that's just a fact. And it, and Sheila's, to her point, it doesn't feel good. I mean, but it's a weird, it's a weird thing. In this county, we're from one end to the other spectrum. I mean, there's some teenagers driving nicer cars than I'll ever drive because their family is so financially, I mean, really, it's just a fact. I mean, there's some people that are not financially ever going to be hurting. And then we have some that a few cents would make a big difference to. But, I do want to just clarify for anyone the fact that I think there's been a lot of chatter about we're taking away free lunch. Just to clarify, those that qualify for free and reduced will always get that. That program is not being taken away, ever. And we have also said, and I'll repeat it again, that if a parent does not apply for whatever reason, the principal has the authority, teachers and they can, discuss that. The principal has the authority to have that done for the child in the parent's place. So theoretically, there should not be a child that is genuinely hungry that their parents cannot afford. And a lot of those schools have, thankfully, the CEP program. So, we've said this over and over, but I just want to clarify.
it'll still be out there.
It will, and people won't listen to
Very
this.
tempting to
They
clarify
won't
it
listen to this,
anyway,
and they're
though.
still going to discuss it, but just to beat the dead horse one more time,
And the media.
it's not going away,
Okay,
but
so may I ask, is it possible, I mean, I'm just going to hit this one more time, or one more time right now. Is it not possible to create a fund balance that the public can put money into Mr. Ross, into the nutritional budget, a separate line item that the community members can feed into if they so choose, right? If they so choose, and hold the prices where they are, come back to it in the first quarter, and just see where our data is, and where the if we can just break it even somehow. I just think the community would step forward, and I know that's a lot of ask on the community, but I come back to there's a lot of communities that are doing it, that are asking their citizens to step forward and to help fund.
Ms. Dale, it is possible. We could set that up as a separate line item and have that opportunity for donations, the same as we would for a lot of other donations that we would solicit. We can absolutely look in how we could set that up.
Is there a recommendation by staff? That hasn't been asked yet.
So,
which staff are you referring to?
The leadership.
so when we sat down and looked at this, we looked at maintaining K-5 and going up 50 cents or eliminating universal and going up a quarter. Those are the two things that we looked at from a fiscal standpoint. Not from an emotional standpoint, not from a want-to standpoint, not from a we take great pleasure in this standpoint, but just from a business standpoint. Those are the two options that we really discussed internally.
And what, in your professional opinion, do you think doing nothing does to this?
Doing nothing to your prices right now just delays the inevitable. And it makes it to where if you're going to be solvent, which we are challenged and we have to be solvent one way or the other, whether that's using federal funds that you bring in revenue, or local funds when they don't match, when they're running a deficit, it just makes that increased down the line. So I think you can look at it from a standpoint of, do you want to creep up at it, or do you want to have a much larger increase at some other point? And again, these are not fun decisions. I know that. We know that every time we look at our proprietary entities. We have two of them. You've got one in just a second that you have to talk about with your after-school and before-school care. But when we look at this, and we'll look at every savings we can find when they're negotiating those food purchases. I know those bids are out right now. There's some different revenue pieces that we can look at, but you know, it comes down to you've got to get closer to that per plate cost.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you for all your, I know this has been as taxing as it is on everybody else. I know this has been a lot on you, so thank you guys for doing that.
Happy to do it.
Let's clarify now where we are,
We're the same place.
where
were
we
now.
are. We've done away
Universal
with
breakfast.
universal breakfast, right? What's the next step?
Well, right now, the board is, it seems like it has decided to leave the prices where they're at,
Right?
and
And that's it.
that's it.
We don't
We'll
have the
discuss
authority.
it
The authority
again
is
soon.
on you.
I'm sure.
So when we're directed to do something different, we will do that. But in the meantime, we can provide you with whatever information it is you require. And we'll keep working toward getting that number to be in the black.
Look like you have something you want to say.
So do I need to make a motion about creating a fund, or can we just agree that that can happen?
That's where I thought you were going to go. That would need to be something the board should direct, in my opinion, the administration to do, just because of the administrative time that it'll take to do. So that could be a motion now. It could be something you could consider at your June 30th meeting. But no, the superintendent can weigh it. In my humble opinion, if the administration is going to take the time to establish a charitable fund and a line item in the budget, that should be with board directive, in my opinion.
I think that should be like an education foundation type of conversation, because they already have the entity set up to be able to handle something like that, rather than creating more administrative task for child nutrition.
So probably the best idea is to leave that with Mr. Garrett right now and let him think about those options, both running it through your existing foundation, or if they were to do it and come back to you with a recommendation. That's
You
a,
can
that's
also
a,
make some
a good
contacts
point.
to see if this is happening anywhere else, to see about replicating.
Yeah, community foundations, other folks may be able to have the wherewithal to set it up for
I
you.
don't think we should reinvent the wheel here. Like,
Yeah.
There's plenty of organizations that could help us with that.
And that can be just by consensus. Is everyone good with Mr. Garrett coming back with a
Still need to
recommendation?
work on it.
So moved.
You don't have to have a
Yes.
motion. for that. You can just nod your heads
Work
on
on
that
it.
one. Great.
All right.
And may I
welcome.
also ask a question? Mr. Garrett, you had mentioned before some of our surrounding counties, the per plate cost. Can you share those once again with us?
Yes, ma'am. And operating off memory, Haywood is in the 480 something range, they told me, but that was off the top of their head. So none of this I have seen in print. What I would prefer to do is just get some things accurately and I'll send them out to you. But they're all within about a dime of each other.
Okay. And a dime's a dime. You'll generate $20,000, but I would like to see those numbers, or which you agree to do, and then I'd like for to have some conversation with some of those whose per plate cost is $4.80. That's almost 25 cents less than what our per plate cost is.
Well,
I'd
but
like to see
again,
why.
Dr. Evans, I'd caution anybody to put all their eggs in that basket, because there's a lot of moving parts. They may have more folks on the lower end of the pay scale than we do. They may have people who haven't worked as long. They may not staff at the same rate. The number of schools they run and the number of schools we have to run are much different when we look at sizes. So one of the tough parts about us in this part of the state is we're the only public school unit that is anywhere near our size. You have Buncombe, which is much larger, and then everyone else is quite a bit smaller. I
True.
do have some contacts around the state that I could probably check that could be a little more of an apples to apples, looking around the 13,000 student area. So if you'll give us the leeway to sort of keep thinking about this and figuring out some ways to bring back some more information, then we'll do that.
Thank you.
I would like to recommend that we stay where we are as far as prices go the first quarter of this year, this coming year, and let Mr. Garrett do his research on the other.
You got the next item, sir.
So welcome to the Henderson County Public School Child Care Update. We are happy to be providing this presentation for you as well. I want to refresh again from last month. We had a fund balance that we appropriated $160,000. We're at a shortfall of 40, which is a subtractive loss of 200,000, but there's good reason for that, because here's why. Increased labor cost, again, has been an issue, but we've all had that spend down of federal money. Part of what was in our fund balance came out of the federal money that we got from the Department of Health and Human Services. So part of that was part of a spend down plan. Either we would have spent it or we would have lost it. Here's an updated recommendation. I've already shared this with you. Coming back from last month, we looked at maybe a 5, 10, 15 increase, $5 in the AM, 10 in the PM, and 15 for Summer Plus. We have updated that recommendation to leave PSAM in the morning the same. Part of the reason is getting some feedback from our child care directors who are working at the sites. Felt like this would hurt the participation because it's a shorter period of time in the morning, which really made sense, and really appreciated their feedback. But they also talked about, you know, the time that we're allowing people to be there in the afternoons from 3 o'clock to after 6. And that puts us in a place where a $15 increase is more in line. So Summer Plus, and again, would be that $15 increase as we try to stay in line with those reimbursement rates from DSS, because that would have effect on families. So the update that we would bring to you is that we would suggested rates leave PSAM the same. We would raise PM by $15, and then the Summer Plus, and this is all for next year. Summer Plus would go up from $140 to $155 for the 25-26 school year. Questions?
In talking to them about, you know, they said they don't think we need to affect the PSAM. Did we give them that number of $15 increase and see what they thought about that? Did they say how that they thought that might disrupt their participation in the afternoons? Were there any
Yeah, we talked
concerns?
about that. Yeah, we talked about that at length, actually. And one of the things that we all know is that we are really the best price in town in a lot of ways. We provide a service that they come stay right at our school. That we're there. We make sure that we have a high quality program. Most of all of our child care programs are 5-star. We've got a few that are 4 stars. But yeah, they did not think, in their professional opinion, that would create a huge downturn in participation. I would also say again, because we do have such high participation in those areas, we are still staffing based off of the number of students who are using the service each week, and we are not overstaffing. So we are going to stay in line with what we're spending.
Did we look at what a $10 increase versus a 15 would do for where we're at, where our gap is?
Mm-hmm. Yep, and again, going back to the discussions with them and what we've looked at, that for us to be able to get to a place where we're not losing money, then we would need to have a $15 increase.
And does that give us a buffer with the 15, or that just brings us
Well,
level?
again, these are unknowns because
Yeah.
we don't know what the increase in labor costs, because we're playing catch up every time, because our budget, we're done. But the one that's not done is the one we need to be done, and that's the states. So it's a hit and miss. You know, we're always playing that trying to predict, and it's difficult to do. But this is our best recommendation that we have.
And always a good time to remind you that this is a long budget session year at our General Assembly, and the last time we sat in this seat, we got our budget late November, early December. So you're already 6 months through your fiscal year. when we know.
And even with this, just, I'll go back and remind what we talked about last month, Mr. Sofia. You're the numbers guy, you back me up here. We still project we're gonna lose money, but we also have a fund balance that will allow us to be able to take that hit and not require us to raise prices more than we have. Our goal is to try to raise these incrementally so that we don't get ourselves in a situation where we don't do anything, then we have to raise way bigger on our child care program, because that cost, as you can see, you know, it can be an extensive amount if we just hold off. But we can afford to lose a bit, because you've asked us to spend down that fund balance a little bit. We can do that. And we'll have a good opportunity to look and see where we're at next year with these rates.
So we have families that qualify through the health department to be able to send their kids, I'm not sure how that works, for PSPM. Well, and this won't affect families in that area.
should
They'll
not.
still be able to, okay.
Correct.
What's the reimbursable rate?
I knew you were going to ask that. Let me go to my text message that I got this morning from Stephanie. That number is, thank you for asking.
You've done this.
I know, right? So the reimbursable rate, just in the act, so you can get a reimbursable rate in the mornings of 105, 100 for a 4-star, 109 for the 5-star, 146 in the afternoons.
So are you allowed to charge different rates to different categories of folks?
Well, it's our program, so we would have the ability to do the things if technically yes, but should we? That's another question. So our child care programs, they are rated based off of different criteria, whether or not they are a 5-star program or a 4-star program. We have 13 of them, and I believe 10 of them or 11 are 5-star, and we have 2 or 3 that are 4-star. It's just minor differences.
Some of that has to do with the facility they're in, the
Yeah.
size of the playground, et cetera, some physical things
Yeah.
of the facility.
Not that we're doing anything like that we shouldn't be doing, but it's just,
Well, a PSPM has to have certain criteria to be able to use the school's equipment outside. And not all of our schools are whatever.
correct. There was a time like for one of our elementaries, we could use the playground, but PSPM couldn't because it didn't pass their standards.
Okay.
How many people use, I know you said AM was small, how many people generally are using PM a week?
I don't have that number off the top of my head. I would have to pull that up.
When does AM start?
Ari, I'm trying. I'm-
What time does AM start?
Six, no, 6:30, I believe is what time it starts.
Kathy said 6.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I'm
So they're
sorry, I
in
was just
there
answering.
for-
I believe it starts at 6.
So they're in there for about an hour and a half in the morning.
I'm not sure it starts at 6.
I think it's 6:30.
I think it's 6:30.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the suggested increases in PSPM and the current, and the summer plus rates for 25-26 school year. And just to let everybody know that the summer rates are not going to change, that they started this week, today, right? That
We're
charge
not
is for
changing it.
next
That's for
summer.
25, 26.
Right,
All
now
of
this would
these
take
start
effect
next
July.
year.
Summer of 25 remains in effect.
Okay, but July,
I second that motion.
So this will be the start of school for PSPM and AM. and
it'll be
then the summer.
July for Hendersonville Elementary and Bruce Johnson.
Yes. August for everyone else, and it'll be the summer of 26 for those summer rates.
Correct.
What time does PSPM go till? 6 or 6:30?
In the evening.
Yeah, from 3 hours in the
3
afternoon.
hours.
And it starts at 6:30. I've had that confirmed.
And a motion on the floor, and any discussion? Dr. Rivers? And all in favor, say
Yes.
aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes.
And I think, Dr. Revis, you are in favor. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bridges. Last Monday, I sat at the Board of Commissioners meeting where they did pass their budget resolution, or budget ordinance, I think they call it, not a resolution, they call it a budget ordinance. And this is where we stand. So this is what we requested. Top line there is what we were funded for the current fiscal year. Capital outlay was $1 million, MRTS was 3.6. They allowed us to take that 1.5 and move it over to that current expense to make it 35,378 so that we could manage this year. The request that we asked for was an increase of $1 million, or not an increase, back to fully funding MRTS at 4.6. Going right to left, capital outlay back to the traditional 1.5. And then the county budget change, we're about a 1.495 short when we look at what we're predicting needing in 25-26. And you all had worked out as a board to split that and with the Board of Commissioners and made a local current expense increase request of $763,463. So this is what that looks like as our estimated budget needs. This is what came back as the allocation. So they did exactly what the request was, down to the penny. They reinstated fully funded MRTS, reinstated the $500,000 in capital, and then made the additional $763. They found that in some revenue sources last Monday. They had to the end of the month to pass this, but they did adopt their resolution and ordinance. So that is our allocation for the coming year. So the request that we took up there in May is what was funded.
I just want to say good job by this board. Also, great job by the county commissioners. I think this might be the first budget I've been a part of that we received the full allocation. And I think it was because we brought a smart budget to them. Now, I have talked to a couple of them that next year could look a lot different, especially if the House's budget passes or it looks something like that, where I fully believe that teachers should get an increase in that starter teacher pay, which is about a $6,000 difference per teacher, but those are the teachers that we're paying out of local current expense, which would drastically move this needle if that were to pass the way that it is right now. And so I just warned a couple of them, hey, appreciate you, thank you, but next year, depending on what the legislature does, it might be ugly.
Well, that's one thing that I was able to share in May, and also last Monday, they asked a couple of clarifying questions of me, and they were very appreciative as well of this board's ability to bring back a reduced request from January to May. I think this may have been the only entity who did that, and that was acknowledged, and I think they were very grateful to see us be those good stewards of those dollars as well. So absent any questions, that was a good quick one.
Well, I just want to echo what Mr. Craven said. We appreciate your advocacy and you putting this together and finding those funds so that we could reduce and come back to them with this kind of budget. But I do appreciate, the short term of what you've done, but you've also, I feel like, have done an outstanding job building relationships with our county commissioners, and I do appreciate that.
Thank you, ma'am.
I second that. All right, moving right along. New business. Mr. Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Board members, you have in front of you a resolution that this board has considered every year for the last number of years. I know it's probably been on the agenda for at least the last 5 years. This is not a necessary action that the board needs to take. The origins of this resolution was that it was at a time when the board was actively looking for property, had some property considerations that were coming to the board. The market in real estate in Henderson County was very competitive at the time, and the board wanted to give the chair and the superintendent the ability to secure potential property through options. And even at that time, those would have been discussions in closed session because the law does allow you to discuss acquiring or purchasing property in closed session. So this resolution was really a way for, if the board was in favor of securing a piece of property, that the chairman could go out and secure an option on that property after closed session discussion without a public vote, so that the property did not get competing offers from someone else. It is completely up to you whether you think an option of this or a resolution of this nature is necessary at this point in time, but it has traditionally been brought before the board annually. So very quickly, I know you've had a long meeting already. Paragraph number 1 is just to secure options. Again, those would be talked about in closed session ahead of time. Paragraph 2 is to secure contracts. Paragraph 3 is to provide for the payment of any down payment, earnest money, or option money. But then paragraph 4 makes it clear that any final decision to exercise an option or buy a piece of property and close on it would have to come to the Board of Education in open session. So any final action would have to be taken by the board in open session. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Is this any different from what it said in previous, like?
No, it's the exact same
It's exactly
resolution
what
you
it-
passed in
okay.
previous years too, yeah. And every chair that I've been associated with has publicly said to the board, I will not exercise this ability without talking to the full board in closed session first. So you're really not ceding a whole lot of authority. It just gives you a mechanism that you wouldn't have to talk about it publicly before securing an option. And of course, the county commission always has to approve the purchase price for property, no matter where the money comes from. But yes, ma'am, it's the same as in prior years. Thank you.
I move that the Henderson County Board of Public Education approve the resolution authorizing the chairman to execute contracts and options for the acquisition of property and memoranda thereof. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Dr. Rivers?
Aye.
All in favor. Motion passes.
Yes. So Dr. Wilson presented a presentation this evening about the AIG plan, and I believe that you had the close to 60 pages to peruse. I just want to say publicly, thank you to Dr. Wilson for putting the time and effort into making those refinements. And you might not remember this, but last year our district was recognized by the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction as an AIG promising district based on our plan. So I feel like that Dr. Wilson and her AIG team and the stakeholders are making some really excellent refinements to our plan to better support not only our teachers, but our students too. And so I just feel like it's an even stronger plan than it was before. But what I'm asking you is to approve the AIG plan that you were provided for the next 3 years.
Do I have a motion?
I move that the Henderson County Board of Public Education approve the 2025 to 2028 local AIG plan.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Please thank the team.
You got moving really fast. I wasn't expecting to be up here so quickly. I think the first one up here is the audit contract, right? Yes. Okay. So Gould Killian, formerly Carlin and Anderson, as you guys are more familiar with them as, is what the contract is for, continuing to work with them. And I will point out up front, we have a different timeline scheduled for next year compared to what it was this year. It will be done in the calendar year of 2025. We will bring back the report. They continue to work with us. I've been working with them actually, with them last week again, and they continue to bring a below market price, and I'm There it is. Ta-da. $35,900 is the contract price. That is including the audit as well as doing the financial reporting for us. I don't really have a whole lot to offer other than that I would recommend that we continue to use them.
One thing before a motion is made is I asked Mr. Socia to have a really good conversation about the expectation of when we get the audit. I was not happy with the delivery timeline this year. I know there were a couple of things that triggered because of the flooding piece, but we should be getting that audit much quicker. And that was a conversation I know that he had. So that is the expectation, and they understand that is the expectation, that we get that audit much quicker than we did this year.
So I'm not aware of that it was delayed last year or this year. So what was the delay period?
So it was about 3 months later than we typically get it, 2 to 3 months later.
We usually have it presented in by
December.
January.
December, January was when you
Depending on
should
when
get
the
it.
LGC approves it.
Okay.
Is there something in the contract that says they will get it to us ahead of time so we don't run into that again?
Just the fact that there are regulations outstanding, they have, that when they have a timeline of when they're required to submit the audit.
So is there a penalty for them? Was there a penalty? I'm just asking, is there a penalty
There
for
was
them
not a
having
penalty.
not-
There is not a penalty, but this is a year-to-year contract. So the penalty would
would
be
be the penalty.
you don't adopt it beyond this 1 year.
Okay,
The penalty is we would go with somebody else if they don't hit the deliverable,
gotcha.
because it's a 1-year contract.
Thank you for making
The
that known.
controller's office could prevent them from getting a contract with us. They could be on the hook for some things, if not, like, not approved to be late.
Well, now I'm just a little. Okay,
So there are some teeth in it.
okay, gotcha.
Was it?
So they've done a
was it
good job.
late-
They've
was
done
it
a quality
late in
job.
completion or just late in being presented to the board, or both?
The submission was late.
Submission to us.
Submission to LGC was late. Oh, okay.
And the hurricane sort of took away the deadline, if you will, this year for some of the counties, some of the regions. So that was what kept anything from happening at that level.
And I'm not concerned about using them. I'm just letting you know that we have had a conversation about some increased expectations to be able to continue. And we will be looking on that to be delivered.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett. Thank you, Mr. Socia.
So
Do I have a
Also, be
motion?
careful on that motion because the years are incorrect on the bottom. So as you read,
it'd be 2025 to 20.
yes, ma'am.
Nope. They're auditing the 24-25 year.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's the audit for the 2021, for the period auditing. I messed everybody up. I'm sorry. I take that back.
So I make a motion,
It's a long motion.
I move that Henderson County Board of Public Education approve the contract to audit accounts between the Henderson County Board of Public Education and Gould Killian CPA Group for the period beginning July 1st, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
I'm not going anywhere. This one's got a lot more to it. This is that time of year. We had a lot last month. We have a bunch more this month to enter into for contracts or for a couple purchases in here for next year. I'm just going to go down through the list and we can talk about them as you see fit, because I know this is a very long document. And thank you for requesting the access, because I didn't realize it had converted it into a Google Doc that you had to get permission to view. First one on there is Beata Home Health. We put this out to bid back in '23. Beata was the vendor that was selected, and we are just using the renewal that is allowed in that initial contract to continue to use them for nursing services. It is on here because they have a potential that if we have a student that comes to us that needs full-time nursing care, we could run up to about $300,000. So the potential is there, and we want to have them on call to be able to provide that service. As I mentioned, since then, we haven't really used them, but we paid $9,000 3 years ago. This is one that we want to have in place because as soon as we have a student that needs these services, we need to get those services started immediately, and this would take care of that for our EC program.
We don't pay them anything until we,
Nothing until services are rendered, correct?
okay, but they're one of those companies that if we do need it, it's an immediate,
Yeah, if tomorrow morning somebody shows up and is going to need services, we are obligated to work into that immediately.
So this is an MOU?
Nope, this is a regular
Regular
contract with them.
Okay.
The next one is a purchase that slightly exceeds the $90,000 by about $970,000. It's for CDW to purchase Chromebooks, 2,700 Chromebooks as part of our regular technology replacement plan. The bids just came back at the end of last week. And we're evaluating, we have 13 vendors. Through the selection of the gentleman in the upper echelon of the room up here, they selected CDW's bid as the bid that they would recommend to go with.
so my question on Chromebooks, is this just replacing just crappy Chromebooks that are not working anymore? Or is this ones that were damaged? Is this,
There'll be some of those, but most of it is life cycle replacement, keeping them in the classrooms, keeping them updated with what Google platform will work, and especially when it comes to testing, that students are able to test on.
okay.
If there's anything else, yeah, I'm getting a nod.
We're not replacing damaged one, I guess my concern was we're not replacing damaged ones that families didn't pay for in their contracts in the beginning
No,
of the year?
this is scheduled replacement.
This is just normal stuff?
This is a rotational
This is-
scheduled
Okay.
replacement.
This will be a yearly thing.
Yes, we don't buy them all at one time, we rotate them through.
Okay,
Yeah, we're trying to get it so it's as consistent a replacement every year as possible so that we can try and plan for that. And we've been able to get to the point where we have enough to do this for this year and next year already. So that's that one. Clarity, another EC service to have as we need for sign language interpreter service. This is one where we actually we do use some extent because it's hard to keep somebody on staff that has this can provide this service. So we're averaging about 53,000, but again, the contract is up to not to exceed 249,999 to have them available to provide those services for us as we need them.
how many sign language interpreters do we have on, like, and are they just full-time?
I'm trying to, do we have?
For the most part, I think we only have really one.
I think, yes, I believe
That-
that.
I was gonna say, for that cost, it probably could.
And that was part of the reason this past year we had to use them a little bit more because we lost one. So we had to contract with them a little more extensively this past year to provide that service.
And there are times when we may have a specific need that we have to call on someone.
So does this one just rotate to all of our schools? Have we looked into, because one thing I did find out this last year is that we actually have a lot more students who know sign language than what is actually being utilized. So sign language isn't something that's in any of our curriculum.
It's actually
Yeah.
counts as a
Counts as a
second,
foreign
meets a
language
second
or
language,
second language.
foreign language requirement. So we have.
It does, but
Blue Ridge.
well, the problem with that though, and this changed this year because this was supposed to be included in the college course for our students, they changed it partway through the year. So those students who were supposed to take it were given the option of and they were given one day during the week, and it was a Wednesday night, which the majority of these kids have church on Wednesday nights. and they had to be present because it's a live class. They changed the requirements during the year, so these college seniors or these high school seniors that were supposed to take it as their foreign language wound up not being able to take it and were forced to take an additional English class that they didn't actually need, but that was all that was available. So they actually lost the ability to take it and had to do it. They were given, so my daughter was supposed to be able to do that. She was one of the few that were, and they couldn't do it.
So that was part of the Blue Ridge Scholars, and that was a school decision to make that modification. We do have that same Blue Ridge Scholars program that's operating in other schools where they've decided to keep ASL.
It
as one
messed
of
up
their
quite a few of the
options.
kids though. So that's why I'm wondering if that's an option we can look into of utilizing sign language more in our schools, especially for a lot of our EC students, because they know sign language and they can use it, and it is a way for them to communicate. So that's just a thought moving forward from me.
Yeah, and the services that this would do is where we have to provide like a licensed interpreter in the situation. But we can certainly have other students doing. It's a big need, for sure. The next one, Fletcher Hospital, Advent Health. This is a contract for crisis counseling to provide licensed social worker, a one-year contract not to exceed $90,000. Funding for this is actually coming from the Project Served SOS grant that Shannon Otten received. So this is funding that was given to us specifically for this purpose, to be able to do this. The next one is Mountain Professionals, continuing to the driver's ed program. This is state funded. We get a driver's ed allotment. This is very common contracts for most of the counties in the region that use Mountain Professionals. Is we will pass along that is the state funding of about $240,000 is what we've been averaging. We pass that on to Mountain Professionals, and then they in turn provide the driver's education program for us. I know we had some issues during COVID, but the timelines, the waits have been handled. They stepped up to take care of that. The last one on here is WNC Source, Developmental Day, working with the need for the more EC services, where we have a contract with them for $1,350 per month per student that they provide services to. Also, this is a state-funded initiative that we have, and as I mentioned, we had $205,000 that we paid this current fiscal year in these services, but fortunately, we do receive state funding that takes care of this, and they are right here in town. And that is all of them. Do you have
I
any
have a
other
motion?
questions about them?
No, but I thank you. Thank you for sending the contracts. I was able to glean some of the information from them. Thank you. It is a lot. I almost printed it off.
That's why we try to provide that one-page summary document
Yeah.
to talk about the procurement and the funding.
That's what I printed off. So I was looking in comparison to the AIG students versus the IEP needs, and the cost is just a little different. So I don't know how much comes from, do we have money that comes from our local government, including the state, or is it just all funded by the state?
Which services are AIG or the?
The AIG, I've
Okay.
concreted, right. So the Western Carolina Community Action, the IEP, the children that qualify for IEP
Oh, this one right now, we have been able to fund that through state funding.
only. State, the local gives nothing of that.
Currently, currently the state funding has been adequate.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, just clarifying for my own benefit. Thank you.
Yeah.
On the IEPs, any students that that have an IEP but have Medicaid or anything, none of that helps with any of that, or does it?
I don't believe that affects this contract that we have with.
Not this one, okay.
I move that the Henderson County Board of Public Education approve that staff proceeds with contracting with the contracts and purchases as presented. All in favor, any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes, thank you.
You read it well, it was just poorly written on my part.
Pardon me?
You read that well, it was just poorly written on my part.
Capital update, Mr.
Nope.
Mark.
Do you want to add the,
Mr. Henderson.
Yeah, so this item, we would ask for action if you feel comfortable making that
already been
action.
added.
This is the item that we added on for the West Henderson High School flooring project. At the completion of the security updates and the other construction that has happened there, we have gone in and looked in our Fund 4, and we have found some funding to where we can do a flooring upgrade similar to what we have done at Flat Rock Middle School last summer. What that would do would be allow us to come in with a floor covering uniformly on all of the corridors. Again, these would be carpet tiles. They would be the 3x3 carpet tiles that we've had a year's worth of experience with now at Flat Rock with all of that traffic. Before we decided to go with carpet at Flat Rock, the carpet tiles, we did send a group last summer down to in the Rock Hill, South Carolina area to look at a few schools that had it. One of them included a high school. And that high school actually was the one that had it down the longest, about 10 or 11 years. And they said that it had maintained its durability and was in really, really good shape. So when we look at the mishmash of flooring around West Henderson High School and some of the other challenges that we have with that flooring, the tile, what we're asking is the ability to allocate up to $175,000. It will not cost all of that, but that will safely give us a zone to operate from on that project for the completion of that. The reason that we're bringing it to you tonight, and as I shared in the conversation earlier, time is of the essence. It takes about 8 weeks to turn this around from the time that we say go, and the majority of that is ordering the carpet. They custom make this carpet when you order it because of the size. Not everybody wants a 3 foot by 3 foot tile, a yard square. That's 4 pieces for a house, I guess, but much different when you're looking at 100,000 plus square foot building. This pricing is actually a little bit less than we paid last year when we did the Flat Rock. This is state contract pricing for anybody who's listening, and the installer is a state contract installer. They are the ones who installed it at Flat Rock Middle as well, and they delivered a very good product. Along with this will be new baseboard coving, and it'll look all uniform from the time you walk in the building all the way around. So I'll be glad to answer any questions. Again, apologies for having to add this as an addendum, but we just got the quote late Friday, and we're able to work through that quote this morning.
Do we need a motion for this project?
Yes,
sir.
it's in excess of $90,000, so we need your motion before we can move.
And I make the motion that we request an approval of funds not to exceed $175,000 for the project. Current quote of $173.0729 for the carpet installation at West Henderson High School. Is there a second? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Motion passes.
And thank you all for letting us slide that in this evening. I hate to do that and try to avoid it, but I do appreciate it. Capital update. I was going to stand here, but I guess I got to drive. So in Mr. Taylor's absence, I will do my best. It is a pretty short update. Card access installation, that is a progress, and it's in progress and in process. This was the security money that we had and used some grant money as well, and did the approval a few months ago to where we have the uniform, at least uniform card access entrance at every school. So those, I think they've completed about 5 of those now and are going to work on and complete the rest of them this summer. HVAC upgrade in F Hall at Flat Rock is in the engineering phase. Generator at Mills River Academy, that is needed to make sure that our machinery, i.e. our technology, continues to run. The was a pre-bid meeting on May the 13th and waiting on those bids to come back. Classroom flooring replacement at Clear Creek and Rugby. These are the ones that were in the capital budget for the current fiscal year. Those are scheduled for June and are in process right now. And the stadium bleacher replacement at East Henderson, the pre-construction meeting took place May the 8th. If you have gone to that school now, the old bleachers are removed, the old footing and concrete is removed. The trees that caused the issue are gone, and we are starting the process of coming back out of the ground. MRTS projects that you have known about: HVAC control replacement, Sugarloaf, all middle schools, North Henderson High School and West Henderson High School. Pre-bid meeting was on the 28th. We will open those bids on Wednesday. Paving, these are the paving scheduled this year for hopefully this summer. Pre-bid meeting was on May the 8th. Hendersonville Elementary, Flat Rock Middle, Fletcher Elementary, Glen Marlowe Elementary, Hillendale Elementary, and Mills River Elementary. These bids actually came back better than we thought, so there may be some funding left in there out of that MRTS to actually do a couple of other projects ahead of schedule, and we'll extend those. So we are working with the county on that. And then roofing, they did the pre-bid meetings on May the 6th for East Henderson and West Henderson. So that, all of these two items here adds up for a busy summer for our maintenance folks and also for our folks who we contract with. If you have a specific question, I'll be glad to try to answer it, or fuss at Carl for not leaving me the information.
Did we have an update on the stairs at West Henderson where parts of them were coming up, going down the senior parking lot?
So I know that Mr. Dillon went and looked at those. I've not, and has done an inspection of them. I've not heard what the actual issue was.
Okay. Yeah, the parts of the bottom of them, like each step, were actually coming up. So it was a very...
The treads.
Yes.
Okay.
Those things. Thank you. My other question was, have we looked at the walkway in front of Rugby where the awning is, where the students are at? The concrete is coming apart in a lot of places.
So I know that is on that long-term facility plan. I don't know exactly where it is from memory. But one of the things that we are doing, and we got a really good price on, is we're repainting the facade at Rugby that is chipping off that front blue piece, so that will happen this summer.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Joseph?
Yeah, just a quick report for you this evening. Local current expense and other restricted funds through May 31st. Hard to believe that that's over, and now we're in June. But revenues are pretty much the same as they were last month at $38,372,000. Expenditures are up to $32,803,000 going into the last month, where we will hit the local supplement, which will be our big hit. Which will actually take us over that $38 million that we've received in revenue. But rather than the 1.8 that we appropriated out of fund balance, we're looking at being closer to 1.2 out of fund balance for the year. So we'll see what weird things happen this month, but
maybe we'll find a few more savings.
that's about where we're thinking we're going to end up the year, is about the 1.2 million. And again, that was also because we spent close to $300,000 on the stipends following the hurricane, so that's part of that 1.2 million. So it's a better year than anticipated back when we first approved the budget. Mm-hmm. Yeah, with all that went on this year.
Have we had all of our reimbursements taken care of from the help from the? Nope. Okay.
No, in fact, there are some of the things that are still just beginning to get done. And we're talking about things at Rugby. If you've walked towards the old bridge down there that really has a,
Yeah.
now like a high dive to go to the other side, we're just now we got approval from insurance to begin the design work of that replacement. We have received a good chunk of our insurance, and we met with them again at the end of last week to see where we stand. It's been very positive. But yeah, we're still just, it's trickling in. Yeah. All right, thank you guys.
So I just got a magical update. The stairs have been repaired at West. So they have jumped on that, and that repair is complete. So people are listening. People are watching and listening.
Thank you, whoever did that, because I watched the little lady about go all the way down, and that would not have
That was Mr. Dillon. Mr. Dillon is, so kudos to Mr. Dillon.
Thank you,
for
Mr.
watching.
Dillon.
Well, yes, sir. General operations. For June, happy to share those and have the opportunity, calendar of events. So our 2025-2026 kindergarten registration remains open for the class of 2038. If you're listening, go ahead and register. We love that registration ahead of time so that all the planning, you can get the materials and we can get you properly placed in your school. So I also shared that with WHKP this morning when I was doing my monthly report with them. June 9th to July 25th, as we covered earlier, it's the summer meal program and the summer feeding. And you see those bus locations that I shared earlier. Summer learning kicked off today, right? Really? Wow, I missed that. Anyway, summer learning is going. So the 5th through the 25th, grades K through 8 and Read to Achieve Camp is also taking place for our 2nd and 3rd graders. Also, the 5th through the 17th will be our 9 through 12. June 30th is our special call business meeting. That's the end of the year. So that schedule is going to be adjusted just a little bit. We'll have the food ready for you at 8:15. Mr. Campbell will do a work session from 8:30 to 9 o'clock, and that work session is to complete the ethics training portion for your required board hours. At 9 o'clock, we will begin with a brief closed session, and the regular meeting will begin right around 9:30. And for those of you listening, this is not a regularly monthly meeting. There will be no public comment. It is just specifically to take care of end-of-year fiscal items. And then the first day of school for students, first required workday and staff for Flex Calendar is on July 7th through the 9th. July 10th, we will kick off another school year, and that will be at Bruce Drysdale and Hendersonville Elementary. And then on the 28th, we will have our administrator in service at Blue Ridge Community College. We invite you, if you would like, to come join us for lunch that day at 12 p.m. And you can say hello to the administrative crew, both young and old alike, veteran and new. Then on August the 4th, we have our next regular meeting. That is a week earlier than normal, but then that avoids from having your board meeting on the day that school starts. This year, we delayed it to be the third week, but because of the way the calendar falls this year, we were able to do the first Monday. So we'll have the regular August meeting on that first Monday. That lets us handle any personnel items going right into the first of the year. And then that allows us to be out and about with our schools on that first day of school. Regular meeting will start at 4, closed session at 3. August 4th through 8th are the required teacher and staff work days for our traditional and early college calendar. August 4th is also my wife's birthday, so I hope I don't forget it. August 11th is the first day of school for students on the traditional and early college calendar. So you saw the busy summer that maintenance has and that we have getting our schools ready to go. I want to say thank you to our 11 and 12-month folks. They always say, do you do anything in schools over the summer? And I say, boy, how do we? We do a ton. We see a lot of flurry of action to get those buildings ready to go, to be even better and brighter and ready to handle those students when they come in July and then when they come in August. So thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share.
Yeah, I have a couple of things before we dismiss. First of all, please excuse me for my voice today. I've got a bad ear infection that's affected my voice. So you have done great. The second thing that I would like, I had a big, long thank you written out, but I'm not going to read it tonight. But thank you, Mr. Garrett, for you, your work, your staff, your transparency, and your integrity, and all those people that you come involved with every day. Y'all have done an outstanding job. And thank you, board members, for keeping us stay late tonight. And I ask for a motion to adjourn.
Tours in August? No? Okay,
No.
thank you.
No, see,
No, not August.
and
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like right there, so thank you.
there's a lot of rush. Did you send out? Okay, so you will have an email coming to you sometime in the next few days that has the signups for the board visits. Would remind you that this time, we've limited so that we don't have 3-3-1, so we always have 2-2-3, so that we don't have a lone board member having to make a visit. So when you fill those out and check them out, if you have been to a school or if there's a school that you've not had an opportunity to see and it gets filled up, let us know and we'll try to work around. Please don't get your feelings hurt if we have to make a few moves. We're trying to spread the love. Motion.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Bye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Revis.
Revis.